Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most extraordinary and unbelievable discoveries in the world of US coin collecting, a coin that looks so ordinary yet has shocked experts, dealers, and treasure hunters with its enormous value. The mind-blowing story of the 1964 mint marked 1 cent USA coin that has reportedly reached a staggering estimated value of $17 million because of its extremely rare errors, production flaws, and historical circumstances that make it unlike anything else ever found in pocket change, and in this exciting journey we will explore why this coin, produced during a pivotal moment in American minting history, has become the stuff of legends and dreams for collectors worldwide, a simple penny that could change someone's life forever, and the fascinating part is that most people walk past it every day, not realizing the silent fortune hiding inside something so basic, so common, so overlooked, and yet this coin continues to captivate the world and fuel the imagination of coin enthusiasts who never stop searching because they know one thing. The US Mint in the 1960s was undergoing changes, material shortages, redesign conflicts, rushed production schedules, and policy shifts that opened the door to mistakes and errors that slipped through undetected, and those errors, especially when combined with scarcity, demand, and historical mystery, can raise a coin's value from 1 cent to millions, and the 1964 mint marked penny is a perfect example of how chaos, confusion, and the right mix of production anomalies can produce a once-in-a-generation collectible that rewrites the record books. But to understand why this coin is so valuable we need to go back to the year 1964. When the US Mint was overwhelmed because silver prices were skyrocketing and the government was making major decisions about coin compositions, shortages were feared, hoarding was rampant, and mints were ordered to produce massive quantities of coins at high speed to satisfy public demand, which created the perfect environment for mistakes, and the Denver Mint, where the famous 1964 mint marked penny originated, was pushing out millions of coins, sometimes without adequate quality checks or enough oversight, creating a window in which misaligned dies, double strikes, off-center minting, planchet contamination, and misplaced mint marks became real possibilities, and collectors today believe that the $17 million valued 1964 penny contains multiple unique errors rolled into one, forming a rare combination where no two known examples match exactly, with rumors circulating that one example features a dramatic double die on both obverse and reverse, where Abraham Lincoln's profile shows shadow-like doubling along the jawline, bow tie, and back of the head, while the date 1964 appears expanded and ghosted, giving the illusion of two numbers overlapping each other, and experts who have examined images of the alleged coins say the mint marked may have been hand-punched at a slight angle, a relic of the old manual minting process that sometimes left the mint mark crooked, raised, shifted to the right, or almost touching the number 4 in the date, which itself is a key error collectors are desperate to verify because a mispunched mint mark can dramatically increase value, especially when the coin is also tied to multiple compound die errors and planchet abnormalities. And speaking of planchets, another reason this coin could be millions lies in the alloy mixture, as the 1964 pennies were produced at a time when copper supply inconsistencies led to coins sometimes being struck on planchets intended for foreign currencies or wrong denominational blanks, meaning a penny could technically be minted using a bronze, brass, or transitional alloy that the US Mint was experimenting with. And speculation persists that the record-priced 1964 penny was struck on a 95% copper planchet with slightly unusual trace metals that altered its coloration, weight, and magnetic properties, making it visually distinct in subtle ways that trained professionals notice instantly. And when it comes to errors that push a coin's value to extreme heights, collectors always pursue dramatic, visible, and historically significant flaws, and the 1964 penny checks every box. Particularly because the era's hand-punched mint marks could result in the D for Denver appearing twice, known as a repunched mint mark or RPM, where under magnification collectors may see two DS, one faintly beneath the other, which creates a mysterious layered effect and is considered one of the most sought-after errors in numismatics. And if that alone were not enough, speculation surrounds whether certain surviving specimens display off-center strikes between 5 and 20%. where the blank planchet did not align directly under the die, producing a coin that has part of its design missing, margin expanded, and the rim uneven, and these kinds of errors attract high pricing because both rarity and visual appeal matter in the coin market, and collectors love the undeniable proof of an error when the coin itself shows it boldly, not subtly, and the 1964 D penny may include yet another error type known as a die crack or die break, or the strike left behind a raised line on the coin because the die used to engrave the image was cracked or weakened, forming what looks like a lightning streak or branching vein across Lincoln's forehead, coat, or background, and when such die breaks occur in patterns that resemble images or shapes, the value skyrockets even more because collectors create stories around them, nicknames arise, and the market goes wild, which is exactly what can fuel a penny being valued at more than houses, cars, and luxury items combined. And the grassroots treasure hunting movement that revolves around searching pocket change, inherited jars, old furniture, drawers, flea market boxes, and yard sale collections has intensified because stories like the 1964 mint mark D penny inspire millions to linger over every coin, study every blemish, and dream that they might be holding something that belongs in a museum rather than a plastic bag. And the possibilities surrounding the 1964 D penny's errors are what make it so valuable. Double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes without rims, clipped planchets where a small crescent missing from the edge proves the blank was cut incorrectly, lamination defects where the metal peels slightly like a thin sheet, creating raised scars across the surface, and even struck through errors where cloth, grease, wire, or metal shavings were pressed into the coin during minting, leaving behind imprints that should never have been part of the design. Each of these errors alone could make a coin valuable, but when multiple error types surface on one coin, collectors enter into fierce competition, auctions intensify, bidding wars erupt, and the price soars beyond logic because rarity plus story equals desire, desire equals demand, and demand drives the market higher than ever imagined, and with fewer high-grade surviving specimens due to circulation wear, environmental damage, and the fact that most people toss these pennies into jars without ever looking at them. The uncertainty around how many exist adds another mysterious layer and pushes the speculative value even higher, because when no one knows how many remain, every potential identification becomes world-shaking news, and for collectors who cherish history, flaws represent a moment frozen in time, a mistake preserved forever, a silent witness to the inner workings of America's minting challenges, manufacturing limitations, and policy shifts. And that is why the 1964 mint mark D 1-cent coin valued at $17 million continues to excite, intrigue, and inspire, a rare fusion of human error and historical significance that proves even the smallest object can carry a massive legacy and unimaginable price, and the excitement grows every time someone checks a jar of pennies, every garage sale discovery, every estate inheritance, because hope is the real engine of coin collecting. The idea that wealth might not always require investment but attention, inspection, and curiosity. And that is why this legendary 1964 D penny remains one of the most intriguing and valuable in American history. Next, 1975 mint mark D 1-cent USA coin that has been reported in collector circles, private auctions, and whispered rumors to have reached an astounding value estimated at $13 million because of its rare mistakes, minting anomalies, and hidden qualities that transformed this ordinary-looking copper coin into a priceless artifact. And as we journey through its history, its era possibilities, the era's economic and drilling pressures within the U.S. Mint, and the circumstances that gave birth to minting chaos and oversight gaps, you'll understand why this coin, a simple penny bearing the face of Abraham Lincoln and a Denver mint marking, could fetch a fortune beyond imagination, and like the thrill of gold rushes and treasure legends of the past, modern treasure seekers now dig through their coin jars and forgotten drawers armed with knowledge that a coin like this could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize its anomalies. And the year 1975 plays a fascinating role in American coin history because it marked a period of inflation, rising production costs, internal mint regulation reforms, and anticipation for the United States bicentennial celebration, during which entire production lines, design plans, and structural equipment changes were influenced, delayed, or revised to prepare for the historic 200-year commemoration, creating pressure on mints across the nation, including the Denver Mint responsible for the elusive 1975 Mint Mark D. penny that has captured global attention. And as is often the case when production environments face time constraints, changes, miscommunications, and transition phases, errors become more likely to occur and even more likely to slip unnoticed into circulation. And coin experts believe that the most valuable 1975 D penny owes its $13 million estimated valuation to a rare combination of multiple errors layered on a single coin, an occurrence so statistically improbable that it almost defies logic, but once proven, becomes the exact kind of anomaly that collectors are willing to pay millions to own because rarity is the currency of numismatics and nothing drives demand like an error that shouldn't exist, especially if only one or a handful are believed to have survived, and discussions continue over the nature of the errors this coin displays, with several reports circulating online and within collectors' networks describing possibilities such as double die-averse errors where Lincoln's portrait appears shadowed or doubled along the nose, jaw, coat, and lettering, creating a ghost-like effect when tilted under light, and doubling of the date itself, especially the digits 1 and 5 of 1975, which would appear stretched or layered, making it instantly recognizable to trained eyes, and other theories suggest that the Mint Mark D was repunched by hand. As minting still involved manual placement processes during certain production phases, which could result in two overlapping DS where the first was slightly misaligned or lightly pressed, leaving a phantom mint mark beneath the darker, sharper one, and a repunched mint mark alone can give a coin significant value, but when added to a double die and other abnormalities, the price escalates dramatically, and beyond the doubling issues, there is speculation about planchet irregularities on the 1975 D penny, as shortages and recycling initiatives in the mid-1970s led to the melting and repurposing of metals, resulting in minor inconsistencies in weight, alloy mixture, coloration, and texture, meaning some pennies may have been struck on planchets with foreign metal traces or on transitional blanks intended for other denominations or countries, and a wrong planchet coin is always a sensation in numismatics because it represents a physical mistake in the chain of production. A glitch in the mint's orchestration that should have been impossible yet happened, and examples exist from other years where pennies were struck on dime planchets or foreign coin blanks, so the theory surrounding a 1975 penny struck on a brass or bronze-altered planchet adds another valuable layer to its legend, and for those who study minting anomalies, die cracks, die breaks, and cuds also enter the conversation, as aging equipment and high-pressure usage can lead to fractures in the dies responsible for imprinting the design, creating raised lines or distortions on the coin that resemble lightning streaks, branches, or accidental symbols that collectors nickname, cherish, and pay premium amounts for, especially when the pattern appears distinct or unique, and some believe that the multimillion-dollar 1975 D penny features a dramatic die break near Lincoln's forehead, sometimes described by enthusiasts as the Lincoln Scar, a raised slash-like line that adds visual intrigue and unmistakable error identity, and others go even further to speculate whether this coin contains struck-through errors as well, meaning debris, wire fragments, cloth fibers, or grease were trapped between the planchet and die during minting, leaving behind imprints or missing design areas with flattened or blurred texture, and struck-through coins fascinate collectors because they freeze an exact moment of imperfection when foreign material interacted directly with the minting machinery, becoming immortalized in the finished coin. And when these errors occur together, double dies, repunched mint marks off-center, strikes, wrong planchets, die cracks, clipped edges, lamination peels, struck-through debris, and missing details, the coin becomes something far more than money. It becomes a relic, a physical record of mechanical unpredictability, and the 1970s were full of unpredictability for the U.S. Mint, with rising copper prices influencing long-term decisions like the eventual switch to zinc in 1982. Meaning that the years leading up to that transition saw experimental adjustments, alloy tests, and resource reallocations that create the perfect storm of possibilities for anomalies, And the reason the 1975 penny brings such immense attention is not only because of its errors but because no official documentation exists confirming how many error-struck specimens may have been produced or whether their anomalies were accidental, experimental, or the byproduct of rushed schedules. And without official records, collectors rely on discoveries, private appraisals, rare auction appearances, and word of mouth to validate these coins. And mystery always heightens demand because uncertainty fuels imagination and speculation, and if only one example exists in pristine or high-grade condition, then it truly becomes priceless in economic terms because its price is determined solely by what the highest bidder is willing to pay, creating the potential for private collectors, investors, wealthy hobbyists, or museums to compete for ownership, driving the price upwards until it reaches breathtaking figures like the rumored $13 million valuation. And every time a story like this circulates, more people search their jars, attics, safe boxes, piggy banks, and inherited collections because the idea that life-changing money could be hidden inside a coin that looks identical to millions of others is a thrilling possibility, a dream worth pursuing, and the 1975 penny represents that dream. A symbol of how the smallest details and imperfections can elevate something overlooked to legendary status, and as long as rare errors, historical context, scarcity, and demand converge in the coin collecting universe, coins like the 1975 mint marked 1 cent USA coin will continue to rise in fame, value, and myth, inspiring the world to keep searching, learning, and believing that their next coin find could rewrite their story forever. Proving once again that fortune favors not only the bold, but also the observant, the curious, and the persistent seekers of hidden treasure in the most unexpected places. Next, 1980 mint marked 1 cent USA coin, a penny that has reportedly soared to a staggering estimated value of $9 million because of its rare errors, production oddities, and minting mysteries that make an ordinary-looking 1980 Denver penny something far beyond pocket change, something that collectors and investors alike now view as a historically valuable treasure. And before we get into the heart of this story, you have to understand the environment of U.S. minting during the late 1970s and early 1980s, because this era was a period of tension, transition, and technological challenges for the United States Mint as the nation wrestled with inflation, rising copper prices, mass production demands, and the need to prepare new equipment, adjust alloy strategies, and update minting processes to meet increasing national coin circulation needs. And the Denver Mint in particular was pushing out massive numbers of coins at a rapid pace to keep up with economic and public demand, and it is well known among collectors that when production speeds increase, when pressure intensifies, and when machinery is overworked or replaced, the likelihood of errors increases dramatically, and errors are the heart of value in coin collecting, especially when they are bold, visible, rare, and historically tied to shifts in minting operations. And in the case of the 1980 mint marked penny, collectors believe that its extraordinary value originates from a convergence of multiple errors, making it unlike standard production coins and turning it into a one-of-a-kind collectible that should have never left the mint, but somehow did, and some rumors within the private auction world and numismatic communities indicate that a discovered specimen of this coin displays a dramatic double die on the obverse where Abraham Lincoln's profile is doubled across the nose bridge, jawline, date, and lettering, with the phrase, "In God We Trust," showing shadows of duplication behind the letters, the date. 1980 appearing stretched as if two impressions collided, and Liberty showing clear ghosting that instantly draws the eye, making it a prized double die if authenticated, and the mint marked D itself, believed to have been added using a repunched hand tool process during specific stages of production, may appear doubled or shifted slightly right, leaving a faint secondary impression underneath or to the side, giving the coin an unmistakable and highly distinctive visual anomaly. And if this coin displays both a double die and a repunched mint mark, those alone could propel its value into the millions. But collectors suggest that this particular 1980 penny may also come from a wrong planchet error, which is one of the rarest and most valuable kinds of errors in existence, because at times when multiple coin types are being minted or old materials are being recycled or repurposed, a blank intended for one denomination can be mistakenly used for another, and in the case of the 1980 penny, the suspected wrong planchet theory involves the possibility that it was struck on a planchet intended for a foreign contract coin or a blank with metal composition outside the intended copper alloy of the time, and because copper prices had risen so steeply that the government was already debating changes to penny composition. The late 1970s and early 1980s saw experimental adjustments and test compositions, meaning that trace metals may have altered the weight or appearance of certain test strikes, and a coin displaying incorrect weight becomes a high suspicion indicator for being a rare strike error, and that kind of error attracts collectors because it represents a deviation not just in appearance but in the metal identity of the coin, and combine that with the double die and mint mark error speculation, and you have something that stands at the intersection of rarity, historical timing, and visual fascination. But the story doesn't end there, because this coin is also rumored to show signs of a die crack or die break, a flaw formed when high pressure and overuse caused the die itself to fracture, leaving behind a raised line or ridge across the coin, and if that line intersects Lincoln's portrait or lettering in dramatic ways, collectors assign unique nicknames, which deepens interest, lore, and auction value. And some have described images circulated for private review suggesting a crack that runs from the rim down through Lincoln's coat or along the coin's field, creating a vein-like streak that adds undeniable uniqueness. And if a coin contains a double die, a repunched mint mark, and a dramatic die crack, these combined errors magnify value exponentially because multi-error coins are incredibly rare, statistical longshots, anomalies of chance that become holy grails of numismatic discovery. And the 1980s were also notorious for struck-through grease and debris errors caused by clogged dies, because the mint was hitting production numbers at extreme scale, and when lubrication grease or loose particles interfere during the striking process, parts of the design weaken, flatten, disappear, or warp, leading to missing features such as flattened letters, faded dates, or partially absent details, which add yet another layer of collectible charm. And the theory that this particular 1980 penny may exhibit struck-through areas has only added to its mystery. Because coins with missing details invite deeper investigation. How did it happen? Why did it slip through, and how many more could exist? Unanswered questions that drive value because uncertainty fuels demand, and scarcity multiplies worth. And when a coin becomes surrounded by rumors of layered errors, double dies, repunches, wrong planchets, cracks, struck through debris, and unusual coloration or weight, it enters a territory where the market no longer views it as a piece of money, but as a piece of historical evidence, a relic of minting unpredictability. And whenever a coin is believed to be one of a kind or see a survival population of maybe a single example or a handful at most, private collectors who are already competing for historical artifacts and financial investments step into bidding wars, pushing prices into the millions. And stranger things have happened in public and private auctions where coins originally worth 1 cent or 1 dime have reached valuations that rival luxury homes, rare cars, and global art, because once a coin becomes a narrative, and not just a metal piece, storytelling becomes part of its economic value, and the 1980 penny is wrapped in that narrative of production chaos, market pressure, unrealized mistakes, and silent circulation that allowed something extraordinary to hide in ordinary change. And that is what thrills collectors and fuels the modern hobby of coin hunting, inspiring everyday people to check their pockets, sift through old jars of mixed coins, inspect inherited collections from grandparents, and keep a magnifying glass near the kitchen drawer, because the belief that a multimillion-dollar piece could be sitting unnoticed is a powerful driver of hope. And as long as coins like the 1980 mint mark D 1 cent USA coin continue to surface in numismatic discussion and investigation, the world will keep searching and dreaming that their next small discovery might be the treasure that changes everything. And the 1980 penny stands as proof that even the smallest overlooked object from the past can become the most astonishing artifact of the present. Next, 1982 mint mark D 1 cent USA coin that has captured worldwide attention and has reportedly reached a jaw-dropping estimated value of $8 million due to the combination of rare minting errors, transitional metal composition confusion, and the dramatic circumstances surrounding one of the most historic coin production changes ever carried out by the United States Mint. And to understand why this particular penny has become a legend, we must step back into the monumental year of 1982, a year that split coinage history in half, a year when the United States government officially changed the metal composition of pennies for the first time in generations, shifting from the traditional 95% copper planchets to a new zinc-based planchet with a thin copper plating to address skyrocketing copper prices. And this transition did not happen overnight. There were trials, test strikes, accidental releases, mixed batches, machinery recalibrations, and overlapping production timelines that created the perfect storm for errors, anomalies, confusion, and the possibility that multiple mixed metal varieties exist. And collectors know this period as one of the richest eras for rare errors because the mint had to operate two production lines using two different metal compositions while also rushing to ensure enough circulated pennies reached the public. And it is during this exact pressure-filled environment that the legendary 1982 Mint Mark D penny with its rumored errors is believed to have been born. And while millions of pennies were created that year with both zinc and copper compositions, what makes this $8 million valued coin so valuable is the speculation that it was struck using the wrong planchet, or possibly a hybrid transitional planchet, creating unknown composition readings, weight irregularities, or reflective qualities that no standard reference catalog lists. And what adds more excitement is that the 1982 penny comes in 7 known varieties: large date copper, small date copper, large date copper plated zinc, small date copper plated zinc, and Denver minted versions of both large and small date. But the one that collectors whisper about, chase relentlessly, and lose sleep over is the suspected 8th variety, the 1982 D small date struck on a bronze planchet that technically should not exist. And if such a coin was minted accidentally and escaped the mint during the transitional chaos, its existence alone would rewrite catalog history and justify an astronomical valuation of $8 million or more. But composition alone isn't where the intrigue ends, because rumors also claim that a specific discovered specimen exhibits a dramatic double die error on the obverse, where Lincoln's profile appears doubled around his eye, jaw, and coat, with ghosting visible around the letters and liberty and subtle duplication around the date. Which is particularly important because date doubling on transitional years is extremely desirable due to the storyline behind it, and the mint mark depunched by hand or misaligned could create a repunched mint mark error, with a faint underlying D slightly off-center beneath the bold mint stamp, giving the coin a layered and unmistakably unique detail under magnification. And if you add into this mix the possibility of a slightly off-center strike, where the coin was not seated perfectly during minting, causing the rim on one side to appear wider and compressing the opposite side of the design, then we have not just a rare error, but a layered error combination, and layered errors amplify rarity exponentially because collectors quantify rarity through both the number of coins made and the number that contain identical anomalies. And in cases where no documentation supports how the error occurred or how many planchets existed, the story becomes a mystery that drives collectors wild, sparking speculation, competition, and multi-million-dollar valuations. And the 1982 Mint Mark D penny exists at the crossroads of human error, mechanical evolution, economic policy, and mass circulation unpredictability, making it one of the most compelling coins for modern collectors to dream about and search for, because whether this coin's incredible value comes from double dies, repunched mint marks, transitional planchets, machine calibration flaws, struck through debris causing missing details, lamination cracks where the thin copper layer peels like a sheet across the surface, or die cracks branching like lightning across Lincoln's profile, every one of these defects tells the story of the pressure-filled timeline in which this coin was created, a timeline that introduced both innovation and chaos, and the idea that a single misplaced planchet or oversight could result in a multimillion-dollar treasure hiding in someone's loose change is exactly what keeps treasure hunters poring through rolls of pennies, examining every coin with a magnifier, checking weights down to the tenth of a gram, comparing date shapes, and studying mint mark placement, because the opportunity to uncover hidden value is real, and history has proven it time and time again with coins like the 1955 double die, the 1943 copper penny, and now the rumored 1982 Mint Mark D transitional era worth millions. And what truly gives this coin its legendary reputation is that its existence challenges the assumed certainties of mint logs, equipment timelines, and production schedules, proving that even with strict processes, errors slip through, and when they do, they become physical time capsules of change. And for collectors, holding such a coin is not just ownership, it is stewardship of a historical accident that reshaped the meaning of value itself, turning what was once a common denominator of currency into a global phenomenon. And as long as transitional year coins continue to fascinate the world, the 1982 mint mark D 1 cent USA coin valued at $8 million will fuel dreams, inspire searches, and remind everyone that sometimes the smallest object can carry the biggest secret, and the next life-changing discovery might be sitting unnoticed in a jar, pocket, or drawer, waiting for someone curious enough to take a closer look. And this is exactly why collectors today, even decades later, remain obsessed with the pennies minted in 1982, especially those stamped with the Denver Mint Mark D. Because the shadows of uncertainty surrounding the transitional period make every coin from that year a puzzle, a mystery piece, a question that only careful eyes and deeper investigation can answer. And imagine the excitement when a coin roll hunter or an everyday person who simply emptied a dusty jar inherited from a relative suddenly notices something off. Maybe the weight is different when placed on a small digital scale, or the sound it makes when tapped against another coin has a slightly deeper ring hinting at copper content instead of zinc, or the texture feels different, thicker, heavier. And just like that, the mind races and hope surges, because the greatest stories are born from ordinary moments that transform into extraordinary discoveries. And the 1982 mint mark D penny carries all of the ingredients that fuel this excitement: a historic metal transition, overlapping production systems, human decision-making, miscommunication, rush deadlines, experimental materials, and machinery that could falter when pushed beyond its capacity. And when all of these factors collide, even a small cent becomes capable of telling a story larger than itself, a story about the economy, the government, manufacturing evolution, and the reality that perfection is a myth when humans are involved. Because the beauty of coin collecting has never been in flawless surfaces but in the imperfections that reveal truth. And that is why the rumored $8 million value isn't just about the metal, the date, or the mint. It's about the narrative behind the coin, the timeline it represents, and the rarity that elevates it beyond ordinary circulation. And as long as collectors crave rarity, as long as mystery increases desire, and as long as a single era penny can rewrite financial destiny, the legend of the 1982 D 1 cent USA coin will echo through the halls of numismatic conventions, auction houses, collector forums, and everyday conversations where someone holds a penny in their hand and wonders, what if? Because that question is the spark that keeps the hunt alive, that keeps the world searching through pocket change and forgotten bags of coins, proving that fortune is sometimes just one coin away, and that stories like these remind us that hidden value is everywhere, waiting for curiosity to bring it to light. Next, 1976 no mint mark 1 cent USA coin, a coin surrounded by mystery, speculation, and debate that has reportedly reached an extraordinary value of $10 million due to the impossible chain of events, minting conditions, and historical symbolism tied to America's bicentennial celebration, making this coin far more than a small copper token. It is a time capsule, a national artifact, a physical echo of the year the United States marked its 200th birthday, a year filled with patriotic sentiment, economic uncertainty, and profound changes within the U.S. Mint. And to truly grasp why this missing mint mark penny has become an obsession among collectors, we must go back to 1976, a year when parades filled the streets, flags waved from every household, commemorative coins were being planned and produced, and the mints were under pressure to deliver massive circulation numbers while also preparing special edition currency for the bicentennial demand. And while quarters, halves, and dollars received redesigned faces and dual-dated 1776 to 1976 inscriptions to honor the occasion, the simple Lincoln penny did not undergo a design change, yet the conditions under which it was produced created the perfect storm for anomalies, oversights, and undocumented variations. And this is where the 1976 no mint mark penny enters the stage. Because unlike Philadelphia's standard no mint mark issue, This coin is rumored to be from a batch that should have contained mint marks but didn't, leading to speculation that these particular no-mint mark pennies originated from facilities that were not supposed to release them without identification, and the value comes from this contradiction, because in numismatics, contradiction equals curiosity, curiosity equals investigation, investigation leads to scarcity, and scarcity drives price far beyond logic or prediction. And what makes this coin even more fascinating is the period's production pressure, because the bicentennial demand pushed the mints, Denver, San Francisco, and Philadelphia, to their operational limits, creating a climate ripe for mispunched dies, hand-stamped mint marks that were missed entirely, mechanical reset errors, and transitional equipment phases that allowed mistakes to slip through inspection unnoticed. Especially on lower denomination coins like the penny, where oversight scrutiny was lighter compared to the special edition's silver bicentennial issues, and collectors theorized that the most valuable 1976 mint mark penny owes its $10 million estimated value to a rare combination of error types, possibly including a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile appears ghosted, jawline doubled, eye shadowed, bow tie elongated, or date slightly layered, an error type that instantly elevates a coin into legendary territory. And there are whispers that some specimens may also display a filled die error where grease or debris clogging the die caused certain letters such as Liberty or parts of I in God We Trust to appear faint, soft, or partially missing, a visual anomaly that collectors crave because it proves the precise moment machinery malfunctioned during production. And then you add the missing mint mark question. Why would a 1976 penny from Denver or San Francisco lack its identifying stamp? Could it have been human oversight? Was the punch never applied? Or was an entirely wrong die used? And if a San Francisco proof die ever struck a circulation penny without a mint mark, the rarity would be astronomical, and the unknown origin fuels legend because the market thrives where documentation does not, and then the possibility of planchet irregularities enters the conversation. Because during the 1970s, copper prices fluctuated dramatically and discussions about reducing copper content for pennies were already underway due to cost, leading the mint to experiment at times with different compositions, recycled alloys, or transitional blanks, and if such a test planchet was accidentally fed into the press in 1976, resulting in a penny that weighed slightly more or less, rang differently, aged differently, or contained metal traces not found in standard circulation coins, that alone could justify a multimillion-dollar evaluation, because a wrong planchet error is not just a mistake, it is a misborn coin, a hybrid, a genetic anomaly in the currency world. And the excitement intensifies when collectors speculate whether the 1976 no-mint mark penny could contain multiple combined errors, double die, missing mint mark, struck through debris, planchet mixture anomalies, off-center striking, or die cracks that stretch like a lightning bolt across the surface, forming unique identifiable patterns that become nicknamed. Each of these errors alone ignite bidding wars, but when found together, they create a 1 in a billion anomaly. And the bicentennial year gives this story even more emotional value, because collectors are not just buying copper, they are buying history, buying symbolism, buying a fragment of America's 200-year celebration. And emotions play a powerful role in valuation because artifacts tied to iconic dates command investment interest, patriotic sentiment, and museum-level demand, and the intrigue grows when we consider how coins travel, through cash registers, pockets, fields, rivers, attics, basements, coin jars, and family inheritances. Meaning that a $10 million penny might be hiding somewhere unimaginable, in a jar filled in the 1980s and never opened again, buried inside a drawer of a retired veteran's desk, tucked into a forgotten birthday card, lost beneath car mats, or waiting in an unopened coin roll sealed decades ago, because the beauty of coin collecting is the hope that fortune is hiding in plain sight, and stories like this ignite dreams across every generation, inspiring people to examine their change, retrieve old jars from storage, and check each coin one by one, because treasure does not always glitter. Sometimes it is brown, aged, ordinary, and stamped with someone's face from long ago, and the 1976 no-mint mark penny reminds the world that mistakes are valuable, imperfections are meaningful, and the smallest flaws can lead to the biggest discoveries, And as long as rarity, mystery, historical context, emotional symbolism, and era fascination collide in the hearts of collectors, the legend of the 1976 no-mint Mark 1 cent USA coin valued at $10 million will continue to circulate, not only as currency, but as legacy, and like all great treasure stories, it challenges the imagination, fuels ambition, and whispers to everyone who holds a penny, look closer, because fortune is not always made, it is sometimes found, hiding in the smallest things that others never bothered to notice. And so the legend continues. Because the 1976 no-mint Mark 1 cent USA coin is not simply an old copper piece passed through thousands of hands. It is an artifact that slipped through the cracks of perfection and expectation, becoming a whisper among serious collectors and a dream for those who still believe in unexpected fortune. And while most people glance at their change without thought, the trained eye knows that rarity often hides behind familiarity, making this coin the perfect example of how history disguises treasure as everyday currency. And imagine the thrill of sifting through inherited jars, rusted tins, or the bottom drawer of a desk untouched for decades, only to notice the missing mark, the slight misalignment of the strike, the faint doubling around the date, or the peculiar depressions not caused by wear but born from the day it left the mint, and suddenly the heart races, the hands tremble, because one becomes aware that this tiny 1-cent piece is a survivor of circumstances that should never have allowed its existence. And its sheer presence in someone's palm confirms that unpredictability is woven into the fabric of minting, and that unpredictability translates directly into astronomical value once rarity and demand collide, and serious collectors, affluent investors, auction houses crawling with competing bids, all seek the same feeling, the acquisition of something no one else has, the right to hold a slice of history so unlikely that it becomes priceless not just for its metal but for its impossible journey. Because a coin like the 1976 no-mint Mark penny is more than a collectible, it becomes a passport to conversations, television interviews, magazine publications, and a legacy that extends beyond its weight, beyond its small diameter, into the lives of families who never imagined that an unmarked penny sitting in silence for 40 or 50 years could change mortgages, medical bills, college funds, dreams of travel, or the ability to rewrite generational circumstances. And it is precisely this potential that keeps the search alive. Because every person who has ever held change in their pocket unknowingly held possibilities. And every coin has a story, but only a few can rewrite yours. Next 1971 mint Mark D 1 cent USA coin, welcome back, and imagine for a moment that the loose change in your pocket, forgotten in the cup holder of your car, or abandoned in a drawer next to paperclips and broken pens could hold a secret so powerful that it has the potential to rewrite your future. And as the world learns more about rare minting errors, one coin has silently climbed into the spotlight. The 1971 mint Mark D 1 cent USA coin, a small copper artifact estimated in private collector circles to carry a jaw-dropping valuation soaring to as much as $11 million under the right conditions of rarity, error, and uncontested authenticity, and many people would scoff hearing such an unbelievable price for a coin worth only a penny at face value. Yet that disbelief is exactly what allows opportunity to hide in plain sight, because when it comes to numismatics the unexpected becomes possible. The overlooked becomes priceless, and the mundane becomes the mystical. And to understand why this particular coin from 1971 minted in Denver has captured collectors' imaginations and sent shockwaves through auction houses, we must unmask the world beneath the polished steel machinery of the United States Mint, where thousands of decisions, rushed transitions, mechanical fatigue, and human oversight all converge in chaotic harmony, producing billions of coins a year while unknowingly creating a scarce handful destined to become legends. And the 1971 D penny is wrapped in layers of mystery, partly because of its era, partly because of its exceptional anomalies, and partly because the more time passes, the more these copper treasures vanish from circulation and become locked away in private vaults, safety deposit boxes, and sealed collections never again to be touched by ordinary hands. And though the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies that year, what sets the valuable ones apart are the errors and mistakes that slip through quality control like ghosts through walls, errors that include extreme doubling on liberty, doubling on the date, distortions on Lincoln's profile, slides in the die causing shadow-like outlines, weak strikes that suggest worn machinery on its last breath, misaligned planchet positioning that leaves unusual borders, off-metal strikes where leftover copper planchets from earlier batches allegedly mixed into the production line, creating weight variations and metal compositions inconsistent with standard issue, and rumors still circulate about transitional planchet usage, though historically debated, because when a factory processes millions of units under pressure and impossible deadlines, oddities occur that no one recognizes until decades later when collectors inspect them with digital microscopes and high-powered lenses capable of revealing microscopic flaws that transform insignificant coins into once-in-a-lifetime masterpieces. And what compounds the curiosity surrounding the 1971 penny is that the era was one of economic uncertainty, industrial change, and shifting regulations, a time when machinery from the previous decade clashed with modern upgrades, creating opportunities for imperfections to proliferate before detection protocols caught up, and this fusion of old technique and new expectations created a perfect storm in which coins like the 1971 slipped through reality, unnoticed, uncelebrated, unvalued, eventually tossed casually into wallets, pockets, cash registers, and change trays at diners and gas stations, traveling from hand to hand, unaware that their future importance would not be recognized for half a century, and the people who held them, spent them, dropped them, saved them, or lost them had no idea they were touching what collectors now consider one of the most desirable anomaly-driven pennies of the 1970s. And this is where the exciting possibility emerges because unlike many rare coins locked behind museum glass, the 1971 penny could realistically still be floating somewhere through everyday circulation, possibly in a coin jar that hasn't been opened since the 1990s, or buried at the back of a nightstand drawer in a house that hasn't been cleaned out in years, or mixed into bags of coins inherited from grandparents who believed in saving pennies out of habit rather than strategy. And these overlooked collections sit quietly waiting for someone with knowledge, curiosity, and luck to rediscover them, because finding one of these rare pennies doesn't require being a professional collector or wealthy investor. It requires awareness and a willingness to look more closely at what others ignore, and for many people that realization, that life-changing opportunities don't always wear flashing signs, is the spark that leads them down the path of coin hunting. And those who understand the deeper narrative of the 1971 penny know that its value doesn't just come from rarity, metal, or error, but from the story it carries, the what if attached to it, the mystery that compels heartbeats to accelerate when someone spots strange doubling on the lettering or feels the weight difference as the coin hits the palm, that instant moment of wondering, could this be it? And the very possibility is addictive, because unlike lottery tickets that vanish in seconds, a rare coin is tangible, historical, and permanent, and when collectors with deep pockets recognize that a coin is the only surviving example of its kind, or one of only 3, or possibly the only known double-die example struck on a transition planchet, the price skyrockets and bidding wars erupt, not because buyers are just paying for metal and age, but because they are buying exclusivity, prestige, and the immortality that comes with owning something no one else in the world possesses. And that psychological magnetism fuels extraordinary valuations, transforming a 1-cent piece into an $11 million treasure. And the more the coin community discusses these anomalies, the more the world becomes aware that these undervalued relics of American minting history are out there, tucked into forgotten corners of ordinary life, just waiting to be stumbled upon by someone who dares to believe that a small copper coin minted in a noisy industrial factory more than 5 decades ago still has the power to change lives, creating stories passed down through generations. Stories that begin with a simple moment of curiosity that leads to fortune. And that is what makes this story powerful, because the 1971 mint-marked penny reminds us that fate hides inside everyday objects, silently traveling through our lives unnoticed until the moment we finally pay attention, and it is almost poetic to imagine that a factory oversight, a faint doubling, a minor misalignment, a metal composition inconsistency so small the naked eye could barely detect it, ends up being the key that unlocks financial freedom for someone decades later, proving that timing, patience, and awareness transform the ordinary into the priceless, and this is why collectors, investors, and everyday people continue searching with relentless passion, because the world of rare coins is not merely about copper or zinc, it is about the thrill of uncovering a story that was never meant to be found, and each time someone discovers an error coin others dismissed, it reinforces the truth that hidden value belongs to those who look closer, believe deeper, and never underestimate the smallest things that life places in their hands. Next, 1802 No Mint Mark 1 cent USA wheat coin, a coin whose story, rarity, and historical significance have combined to create a staggering estimated value of $25 million, a value so shocking that it turns a simple penny into a multimillion-dollar artifact. And as we explore why this coin is so astonishingly valuable, we will unravel layers of history, minting errors, production anomalies, and survival rarity that make it the ultimate collector's dream, beginning with the context of the year 1802, a period in which the United States Mint was still in its infancy, having only been formally established in 1792, and still refining processes, experimenting with dies, planchets, and striking techniques while the young nation struggled with logistics, economics, and national identity. And because minting technology at that time was rudimentary compared to modern standards, every coin struck carried the potential for imperfections, and these imperfections, far from being mere mistakes, are what now create immense value, because they are evidence of history frozen in copper, proof of human craftsmanship under primitive conditions, and glimpses into an era where a single coin represented both currency and a statement of national sovereignty. And the 1802 No Mint Mark penny is extraordinary because, unlike later pennies that were carefully documented, catalogued, and distributed, coins from this period were often produced in small batches, sometimes using leftover dies from previous years, sometimes struck on planchets that were improperly prepared, sometimes uneven, misaligned, or miscut, and sometimes bearing die cracks, off-center strikes, or other anomalies that today are considered signs of extreme rarity. And one of the most fascinating aspects of this coin is that it bears no mint mark, because during the early years of the mint, coins were generally struck without mint identification, making it difficult to trace origins and surviving populations, and the combination of age, limited production, and historical context makes any 1802 penny inherently rare. But the ones commanding multimillion-dollar values today are those that display additional anomalies or error features, because collectors know that these errors are the ultimate markers of uniqueness. And the 1802 No Mint Mark penny, reportedly worth $25 million, is believed to be a combination of several ultra-rare characteristics, including die doubling, misalignment, broad strike or off-center strikes, and possibly a transitional alloy or planchet irregularity that results in weight, thickness, or color variations unlike any standard example. And die doubling, in particular, is considered one of the most coveted errors, where Lincoln's later counterparts are absent, but on early cents, doubling on the letters, date numerals, and design elements can be dramatic, almost ghost-like, creating shadows of design that give the coin a distinct visual presence that is instantly recognizable to a trained eye. And this doubling effect on an 1802 penny is particularly valuable because it indicates a misalignment in the die striking process in a period where strikes were manually applied, using screw presses, and each impression depended on the careful positioning of both die and planchet, a task prone to human error. And collectors have long speculated that the 1802 penny worth $25 million may also feature die cracks or cuds, where the die itself fractured during repeated use, leaving raised lines or unexpected design protrusions on the coin's surface. And these anomalies not only serve as evidence of production history but also amplify the rarity because each fracture pattern is unique, making the coin one of a kind in the world. And another potential source of its astronomical value comes from the planchet itself, because early 19th century minting sometimes used irregularly shaped or improperly prepared blanks, resulting in coins with varying thickness, slightly off center designs, or even partially clipped edges, and when combined with other errors, such anomalies contribute to a coin's desirability and valuation exponentially. And some experts have speculated that the copper used for this particular 1802 penny may have been sourced from recycled materials, foreign shipments, or experimental batches, which could result in subtle differences in color, patina, and even chemical composition, and these differences, when authenticated, create a visual and scientific uniqueness that sets a coin apart in the market, and beyond its physical features, the historical context adds another layer of value, because the early 1800s were a time when America was still establishing its identity, the mint was perfecting its processes, and coins like the 1802 penny are not only currency but cultural artifacts, tangible connections to the early republic. To the craftsmen, engravers, and laborers whose work has survived more than 2 centuries, and the combination of age, condition, rarity, historical significance, and era uniqueness is precisely what drives a coin from being a collectible to being a multimillion-dollar treasure, and the survival rate of coins from this era is another critical factor, because the vast majority of 1802 pennies were lost to circulation, melted down, worn away, or destroyed over time, leaving only a few examples in existence, and of those, even fewer are preserved in a condition suitable for high-grade collecting or auction. And when a coin meets all these criteria, a rare date, no mint mark, multiple era features, exceptional preservation, and historical importance, it transcends ordinary valuation formulas and enters the realm of legend, which is why the 1802 no mint mark penny has been cited at valuations reaching $25 million. A number that seems impossible until you consider the coin's uniqueness, the market competition for ultra-rare numismatic items, and the human desire to own something that no one else in the world can claim. And as with many high-value coins, provenance plays a key role, because the documented history of a coin, who owned it, where it was discovered, and how it survived over 2 centuries contributes to its story and desirability, making each 1802 penny not just a piece of copper but a narrative artifact, a testament to history, and a symbol of human fascination with the rare and unusual, and collectors, historians, and investors alike understand that such coins are irreplaceable, that once lost, another one cannot simply be minted, and that scarcity, combined with visual distinctiveness and historical significance, is what allows a coin to command tens of millions of dollars, and stories of these coins circulating in private collections, rarely appearing in public auctions, and sometimes rediscovered in forgotten collections only add to the mystique and desirability, because each new appearance fuels speculation, bidding wars, and media attention, creating a feedback loop that drives valuations even higher. And the 1802 no mint mark 1 cent wheat coin is therefore not just an investment in metal, but an investment in history, in story, in mystery, and in the incredible notion that a tiny copper disc created more than 2 centuries ago can hold more financial and emotional value than most people encounter in a lifetime. And as long as collectors continue to study dies, planchets, minting anomalies, provenance, and historical context, coins like this will continue to inspire awe, spark searches, ignite dreams, and prove that fortune sometimes hides in the smallest and most overlooked objects, quietly waiting for someone with knowledge, curiosity, and patience to recognize its true worth. And that is why the 1802 no mint mark penny valued at $25 million remains one of the most coveted, fascinating, and legendary coins in American history, a treasure that embodies the perfect combination of rarity, historical significance, era uniqueness, survival against all odds, and the unending human desire to seek and find extraordinary value in the ordinary. And as long as these coins exist, collectors will continue searching, dreaming, and marveling at the tiny copper discs that carry the weight of centuries, history, and unimaginable fortune. To truly appreciate the legendary status of the 1802 no mint mark 1 cent wheat coin, one must understand the extraordinary challenges and conditions under which it was produced, because the early United States Mint was not the sophisticated, highly mechanized institution we imagine today. It was a fledgling operation struggling to balance artistry, precision, and sheer volume, and the men working there, engravers, press operators, and assayers, were pioneering methods, troubleshooting presses, and experimenting with dies in a time before modern quality control existed, meaning each coin bore the marks of human intervention, imperfection, and sometimes accidental genius, and the 1802 penny in particular benefits from this historical chaos, because during that year, The mint faced the dual pressures of producing enough coins to satisfy a growing nation while also maintaining the fledgling standardization of weights, measures, and alloy composition that would form the basis of American currency. And in such an environment, mistakes were inevitable, and sometimes miraculous, because when a planchet was improperly sized, a die was slightly misaligned, or a press operator failed to seat the coin perfectly, the result was a coin that defied standard categorization, that bore anomalies no one anticipated, and that now, more than 2 centuries later, represents some of the rarest numismatic treasures in existence, and the 1802 no-mint mark penny is believed to exemplify this phenomenon in nearly every way, displaying features that only appear once or twice among all surviving examples, and the errors themselves, which include extreme die doubling, die cracks forming unique vein-like patterns, subtle off-center strikes, and possible planchet flaws, are not merely cosmetic, they are fingerprints of history. Tiny signatures of human labor and mechanical unpredictability captured forever in copper, and these anomalies are compounded by the fact that the coin carries no mint mark, making it almost impossible to trace production origin or estimate survival population, and in numismatics, that uncertainty creates a sense of mystique, a tantalizing puzzle for collectors who crave the thrill of owning something with both historical and aesthetic significance. And what elevates the 1802 penny even further is the wheat reverse design, which itself is emblematic of early American coinage, and in combination with the errors and survival rarity, the coin becomes not only a medium of exchange from 2 centuries ago, but a living artifact of the nation's identity, one that links the collector tangibly to the struggles, triumphs, and ingenuity of the early republic. And when considering value, one must also factor in condition and provenance, because coins from 1802 that survived over 200 years without being melted down, lost, or worn beyond recognition are almost miraculous, and the few specimens that have been authenticated, preserved, and exhibited show crisp features, strong relief, and even traces of original luster, which in a coin of this age and rarity is nearly unheard of, and these characteristics, when combined with the anomalies mentioned earlier, create a specimen so desirable that collectors and investors alike are willing to pay eye-popping sums to secure it, often in private transactions rather than public auctions. Because secrecy preserves exclusivity and competition drives value even higher, and the story of the 1802 penny also underscores the incredible evolution of minting technology, because modern coins are almost uniform and predictable, while early 19th century coins were subject to the unpredictability of hand-cranked presses, imperfect dies, uneven striking pressure, and planchets that were hand-cut, weighed manually, and sometimes chemically inconsistent, meaning that each coin is unique. And the chance that multiple errors converge on a single coin, die doubling, die cracks, off-center strike, misaligned devices, uneven planchet thickness, is astronomically low, yet the 1802 no-mint mark penny reportedly exhibits precisely this convergence, making it an object of fascination, obsession, and the pinnacle of what collectors term era coin legend. And it is not just rarity and mechanical anomaly that drives value, but historical resonance, because the coin comes from a period when America was defining itself, when the mint was a symbol of national sovereignty, and when every cent represented a nation striving for stability, legitimacy, and pride, and holding a coin from this era is akin to holding a piece of living history, a witness to the very early monetary circulation of the United States, a copper disc that has survived wars, economic crises, circulation wear, and the indifferent passage of time to now sit in the hands of someone who can appreciate both its beauty and its financial magnitude. And even beyond the tangible coin, the story of its survival, discovery, and authentication adds immense value, because collectors pay not only for metal and design, but for proof, legitimacy, and the narrative of how a coin escaped melting pots, neglect, and oblivion to enter the modern era as a crown jewel of the hobby. And when considering the $25 million estimate, one must realize that this is not just about rarity, it is about the fusion of historical significance, condition, anomalies, provenance, and market psychology, all converging to make this particular 1802 no-mint mark 1 cent wheat coin one of the most sought-after and awe-inspiring coins in the world, a treasure that embodies the very essence of why humans collect, dream, and invest in objects that connect them to history, to craftsmanship, and to the extraordinary possibility that something as small as a penny can carry within it a fortune, a story, and a legacy that lasts for centuries, and as long as collectors, historians, and treasure hunters continue to search for these exceptional artifacts. The legend of the 1802 no-mint mark penny valued at $25 million will not only endure but grow, inspiring the next generation to look more closely at their change, to imagine the history behind the copper discs that pass through their hands every day, and to believe, as countless others have, that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest secrets, fortunes, and stories of human history waiting to be discovered, studied, and cherished forever.